The rain fell over the battlefield like a funeral song. Bodies lay scattered in the mud, and through the mist, a lone rider advanced. His white armor gleamed faintly beneath the storm, streaked with blood that was not his own. His face was young, almost delicate, but his eyes, dark and unflinching, held the silence of someone who had seen too much death for his years. That was Prince Yamato Take of the Imperial House of Yamato, the most feared and beloved warrior of his age. The people called him, the Wolf of the East, and the name alone could turn an army's courage into ash. But as his horse trudged forward, the prince was not thinking of victory. He was thinking of home. The burden of glory. The imperial palace at Osaka shimmered in the morning light when Yamato returned. Courtiers lined the marble steps, bowing low, their silken sleeves brushing the floor. He dismounted, weary but proud. He had crushed the northern rebels, as his father, Emperor Keiko, had commanded. Yet as the cheers swelled, his heart felt hollow. At the top of the stairs stood the emperor himself, tall, stern, and adorned in robes of indigo. His expression was unreadable. "You have done well," the emperor said. His voice carried power that could silence the wind. "But victory breeds pride. Remember that your sword serves the throne, not yourself." Yamato bowed deeply. "I live for your command, father." The emperor's eyes lingered on his son. "Then you will go again. The people of Izumo defy my rule. They believe their gods greater than ours. You will bring them peace, or fire." For a heartbeat, Yamato hesitated. He had barely returned from one war, and his armor still smelled of blood. But defiance was death in the house of Yamato. "Yes, father," he said, though his soul ached. That night, as he sat alone by the palace pond, he watched the koi circle beneath the lantern light. He longed for rest, for something softer than war. In the reflection, he saw not a prince but a ghost, a boy carved hollow by duty. Behind him, a soft voice spoke. "You look as if the water might swallow you whole." He turned. A young woman stood there, draped in pale silk. Her name was Princess Oto Tachibana, the daughter of a noble house. She had the calm grace of moonlight. "I was only watching," Yamato said. "Then you are watching sorrow," she replied gently. "And sorrow has teeth." Her words pierced through the walls he had built around his heart. In her eyes, he saw something he had forgotten, compassion. They spoke long into the night, and for the first time in years, the prince laughed. Within weeks, they were married. And for a brief season, peace touched him. But peace is a fragile dream for those born with crowns. 2. The journey to Izumo. When spring came, Yamato set out for Izumo with an army of 100 men. Oto Tachibana rode beside him, though he had begged her to stay behind. "You are my heart," he said. "If anything happens to you, then your heart will still beat," she answered. "But without love, what is the use of breath?" Her courage frightened him more than any enemy. Yet he could not deny her. As they traveled east, the land changed. Forests grew darker, the rivers wider. Villagers watched from their doorways, whispering prayers to old gods. The priests of Izumo were said to summon storms, to command serpents, to curse men from miles away. On the 7th night, as they camped by the sea, Yamato dreamed of a shadow rising from the waves, a serpent crowned in gold. When he awoke, his sword hand was trembling. The next day, a messenger arrived from the Izumo lords, bearing a false smile. "My masters invite you to a feast," he said. "They wish to honor your bravery." Yamato's generals urged caution. But pride whispered louder. At sunset, they entered the great hall of Izumo. The tables groaned with roasted boar and steaming rice. The lords welcomed them with wine and song, though their eyes were as cold as the sea. When the night deepened, Yamato felt a strange heaviness in his chest. His limbs grew weak. Around him, his soldiers began to fall, one by one. "Poison," he gasped, clutching his throat. The lords laughed. So falls the wolf of the east. But Yamato was no ordinary prey. He rose, his vision swimming, and drew his sword. The blade sang through the air, bright as lightning. He fought like a storm-given flesh, cutting through the treacherous hosts until the hall was silent except for the crackle of torches and the sound of his own ragged breath. When it was over, Oto Tachibana rushed to him. She pressed her hand to his chest, her eyes wide with fear. "You cannot keep doing this," she whispered. "You will die long before they stop sending you to fight." He looked at her, his voice breaking. "Then let me die doing what my father demands. I was not born to live for myself." But deep down, he wondered if that was true, or if the gods themselves were laughing at the chains around his soul. 3. The Sea of Sacrifice. Weeks later, the army marched toward the southern coast, where the last of the rebels had taken refuge on an island fortress. To reach it, they had to cross a treacherous strait known as the Sea of Flames. As their ship set sail, a storm began to gather. Black clouds rolled over the horizon, and the waves rose like walls. The sailors muttered that the gods of Izumo were angry. The wind howled, snapping the masts like twigs. The fleet began to break apart. "We must turn back," cried one of the captains. But Yamato's pride would not allow retreat. "I will not flee from wind and water," he shouted. Oto Tachibana stepped forward, her face pale but resolute. "Then the sea will take you." Before he could stop her, she tore the white silk from her robes and tied it around her waist. "What are you doing?" he demanded. She smiled softly, her eyes shimmering like morning dew. "The sea demands a life. Let it be mine instead of yours." Then, before anyone could move, she leapt into the raging waves. The storm roared louder, swallowing her cry. Yamato screamed her name, but the sea did not answer. Moments later, the wind calmed. The waves fell still. The sky cleared. The soldiers whispered that the princess had become a goddess of the deep, appeasing the wrath of the spirits. Yamato stood at the prow of his ship, silent. His heart had been torn from him, and the calm sea felt cruel in its peace. 4. The Last Shadow. When the island fell, there was no triumph in it. Yamato's sword dripped with victory, but his soul felt hollow. The taste of battle turned to ash in his mouth. He returned home alone. The emperor greeted him not with praise, but with another command. "There are whispers of rebellion in the west," the emperor said. "Go there. End it." Yamato stared at his father for a long moment. "And when there are no more rebellions, will I be free?" The emperor's gaze hardened. "A prince is never free." That night, Yamato rode into the mountains, leaving his guards behind. He walked through the forests, past rivers where the moonlight trembled. At the edge of a cliff, he drew his sword and placed it before him. He spoke softly into the wind. "Oto Tachibana, if you can hear me, tell me, was it worth it? Did my duty ever honor you?" A breeze brushed his cheek, carrying the faint scent of sea salt. In the whisper of leaves, he thought he heard her voice, "Peace does not live in war, my love. It lives in the choice to stop fighting." For the first time, Yamato understood that he had never been fighting for peace, but for his father's pride, and his own. When dawn came, his soldiers found only his cloak by the cliff and his sword thrust into the earth. Some said he became a spirit of the mountains, guarding Japan from unseen threats. Others said he walked into the sunrise to seek his lost beloved beyond the sea. But the legend of Prince Yamato Take endured, not as the tale of a conqueror, but as a man who carried the weight of glory until it crushed his heart. Epilogue. Centuries later, in a small shrine by the coast, fishermen still leave offerings of white silk and rice wine. They say that when storms rise over the sea, a figure in white armor appears on the waves, his gaze fixed on the horizon, as if still searching for something he can never reach. Some call him a hero. Others, a ghost. But those who know the story whisper that he is neither. He is the memory of all who loved too fiercely, fought too long, and learned too late that even the strongest hearts can drown.